thank you very much for finding some time to join us for this presentation. Now, we know that in many aspects of our lives, we talk about integrated this, integrated that, and generally speaking, integration is kind of a wild west as far as the topic goes. When you think about it, we live in the world that is getting more and more connected, which is getting more and more integrated. So therefore, we as consumers, we as the customers, we as employees are expecting to be more and more connected to the things that we do, and potentially do the things from more platforms than just one. So in our opinion, integration generally just feels much more natural as opposed to doing the things in an Excel and then going and doing the things in another platform, carrying things over, rekeying information, or going and talking to your peers because they are not connected to you. So besides all of the basic, obvious, straightforward things that integration brings as benefits, such as no need of additional data re-entry, obviously faster work as an organization, I think that we as humans feel a little bit more refined. We feel that organizations who actually do have integrations that are better organized, better thought through, much more pleasant to work with as a result of integration. So in today's webinar, we'll have two presenters, Rokas Varanavičius and Jason Gostro, and what we'll be talking about is we'll be talking about number of aspects of integration. So at a very basic level, we want to talk about what really GP and CRM working together can bring to your organization at multiple levels of integration. But to set the stage, what we would like to do is talk about a definition of integration, and then we'll talk about a couple of the aspects of what integration can mean to your organization. And since some of you are GP users, some of you are using some other ERP systems, might be considering CRM system or not considering CRM system, we would like to take a chance and then actually define what the CRM can bring to the picture and why we would think that a CRM is a good platform to be put in front of the ERP system. Then what we will do, we'll set the stage with a simple scenario where we'll take a quote, we'll take some of the data that is integrated from ERP into the CRM, managed in ERP, and in this case GP, and we'll work with that data in the CRM, where we'll do some integration points in there, and then we'll push the data back into GP. That right there, the simple scenario, should set the stage at how the basic integration is working from these two technology points of view. And then we will talk about the advanced scenario of recurring sales orders. We'll talk about aspect of setting and forgetting, and then having the system to actually churn out the orders on a predefined timeline. We'll talk about how we can actually put some custom process control that might be very specific to your business, your type of orders, your type of the customer interactions that you do, that actually can be embedded within the CRM processes. And then we'll talk about how we potentially can take that information that is generated and managed by your CRM system, by your staff in the CRM system, and then operations, maybe an accounting staff in the GP system. And we'll talk about how we can expose that sort of data to the self-service customer portal or your vendor portal. Then we'll do a quick recap. So without any further ado, my name is Rokas, and I will be leading the first part of the conversations in here. And we want to talk about what are the types of integrations and what are the scenarios of integration. So when we talk about just basic concept of integrations, we're talking about sales department, fulfillment department in your warehouse, your accounting, as I said, your customers, your management, and so forth, everybody working together. So really, when you think about it, that the integration at organizational level is a very basic concept where multiple people, multiple departments work together. Now, how do they work together? Well, one of the simple way to do it is, you know what, let's share the data. So if I have a quote I need to produce, or if I have a customer that I have to call and then figure out what is their account receivable status and so forth, we potentially can achieve an inter-department integration by just simply sharing the data across different departments. That's kind of one of the simpler levels of integration. We'll talk about that. Now, the other part of integration that kind of gets a little bit more interesting and exciting is applications. So when you talk about applications versus the data, the main difference is the data is there. It can be available within 60 seconds, maybe available on nightly or weekly data runs. But when you talk about applications, typically applications will expect something to happen right away. So if I'm a customer, I've just placed an order on your portal, and I have something that I need to change, but I maybe don't have controls on the portal, and I need to call somebody, I'm expected as a customer to potentially give you a call and have access to somebody who can talk and look at the same data at exactly the same time. If we're talking about document production or document management, we don't want to do something and wait a few minutes or a few days till the document is available in the repository. We are, as a users, expecting that some of these applications will talk real time and potentially will make my workflow smooth to the point where I can immediately actually interact with other systems from the system that I'm working in. And an example we'll show today specifically will be that e-signature on a quote document or an opportunity document. And then obviously when we take that outside of your organization, I kind of touch base on the self-service, but when we talk about organization, so you have your customers, you have your vendors, you have other partners that potentially are part of your overall success of working with the customers and being industry leader. So when you talk about how do we actually make integration available at the multiple organization level. So those are the common types of the integration. When we look at this complex diagram, don't get overwhelmed, because there are a couple of key elements in here that I want to chat about as far as where we can potentially have integration or where are the opportunities to integrate. So when you think about the general life cycle, we have a client that potentially have a lead stage or some kind of unknown stage. Then we will have number 2 in here that present us an opportunity stage where we'll actually negotiate, send out quotes, and so forth. Then we'll have to have some kind of delivery / fulfillment phase. Then when the things are done and payments are received and goods are exchanged, then we have a maintenance stage. So these interactions in here obviously require multiple people, from sales to marketing to fulfillment to the accounting, to work together. But one of the things that is overlooked a lot of times is the customer life cycle just stops in here whenever the orders are fulfilled. But the reality is, if we actually take some of the data, if we understand customer financial picture, customer buying patterns, and some other things like that, there's an opportunity to have number 5 as another step in the life cycle of the customer, where in marketing can be harvesting some of the activities on other systems and potentially triggering some notifications, invites, promotions, and so forth to the customers, where we can potentially deposit the customer again into the lead stage, where they can repeat the same sales cycle over and over and over again. And obviously the important part about doing anything in here is, if you have an organization and you have multiple people working with a customer and interacting among different departments, you want to make sure that you track communications, calls, histories, appointments, and other things like that, so everybody's on the same page. So with that said, why do we want to integrate? If we look at a little bit deeper level of details, integration provides you benefits like a single master record, where you can potentially create a customer record or create a product catalog in an ERP system like Dynamics GP and maintain it from there, and that particular master set record can be consumed in multiple systems. Single transaction entries. I mean, how many times we see people who actually have to re-enter the same number, same data in order to quote, in order to place an order, and in order to create an invoice, and so forth. So if we minimize the data transaction re-entries, we are actually enhancing our accuracy, enhancing our data, enhancing data validation, and increasing the process controls, which is another good reason for tight integrations. Another thing that I briefly mentioned is division silos. So if you eliminate that, that means the customer can talk to marketing, customer can talk to sales, customer can talk to fulfillment. I mean, you might not want a customer to talk to all of these different departments to get answers, but potentially the customer can reach out to your organization, and your organization will be providing accurate and the same answer every time the customer is interacting with you. And obviously the favorite thing from the integration perspective is really eliminating hours of internal administration. I think our organizations and in today's world really have the technology, have capacity, have capabilities, but we still default on manual administrative work as a way to do business, and potentially that's one of the strong reasons to really start looking into some level of integration. So briefly, let's talk about why to use Dynamics CRM on the front end. We look at our daily world from business perspective as we have employees, we have co-workers, we have customers, we have partners. So reality is that we are engaging in sales activities, marketing activities, customer care activities, and some custom apps that might be applicable to you. Today we'll be looking at recurring order as one of the additional modules, but we're talking about project management, we're talking about field service, we can talk about a number of different things that potentially would qualify, would be classified as that custom application development. So from the CRM perspective, we have choices of what we present to your users, to your customers, to your partners. I mean, you can have different browsers from Internet Explorer to Apple devices. You can use tablets, you can use phones, you can use desktops to actually interact with the data. So once again, it depends what kind of users you have. If there's somebody in a warehouse, maybe they have a tablet. If there's somebody sitting at a desktop all the time, maybe they're using a desktop platform. And you have people in the field potentially using much lighter versions of the functionality via the phones. So when you think about it, the CRM also presents abilities to interact. So if you want to do document collaboration, portals, emails, if you want to reach out to your customers via social media and actually send out the surveys and then do whatever else you need to do to increase your customer satisfaction, all of those things are available within Dynamics CRM. So we look at the CRM as a platform. So at a very basic level, you have workflows, you have guided processes that make the things consistent. You can enforce business rules like making certain data elements required. You can extend it. So the things that Jason will be showing later today, recurring order modules, the elements that we have integrated on the CRM side, even like a shipping method, payment terms, other things like that. All of those things were done as extensions within this platform to really make sure that ERP package and the CRM package work together based on how your business is put together. The solution also allows you to deploy some of the solution elements on-premise, some of the solutions in the cloud. So if you want to potentially have your ERP package like Dynamics GP or AX on-premise on your site, you can do that. You can consume the CRM services or other custom application components in the cloud. So we're looking at this as a solid platform to add to ERP. So obviously at the very core, we have an ERP and accountants do what they need to do in an accounting package. We potentially will be talking about customer portals. We can talk about additional add-ons like an Esignature and other uses. So as you see, we have some very basic things that the system comes in with set up as out-of-the-box functionality, and we leverage that to really deliver a solution that allows you to focus on your business and have your people focused to work in one platform in the way that they need to work, and they can choose exactly what environment and what user interface they feel most comfortable to work with. So in today's spotlight, we'll be talking about two things. One is, as I mentioned, we'll do a simple quote, and I will jump into that just in a minute in here. And then we'll be talking about the more advanced recurring order concept. So from the simple quote, we will be using a product catalog that is managed in GP. We will create a quote that is based in the CRM, but is using GP data. We will produce a document. We'll talk about e-signature, and we'll finalize the process and accept the quote and convert that into an order. So with that said, let me switch my screens. Let me bring up Microsoft Dynamics CRM. So once again, this is a web-based platform. Security is controlled. Different people might have access to different elements in here. But as you see, I'm logged in as system administrator. So what I will do, I will just simply click on sales, navigate to quotes area, and I will choose to create a new quote. So as you see right here, it's my quotes. I potentially can filter to see all the quotes. So I just want to make sure that I don't have any quotes that are open. I don't have any quotes open. And I will come back in here. I'll say I'll create a new quote. Once again, from the platform perspective, this is very customizable, so you as an organization can choose what fields are required, which fields are not required by different users, and so forth. As you see, when we have different price lists I can choose from, all of these are pulled from the GP in this case. In this environment, we have full integration, so I will say that this is a retail quote. I will enter that. I will choose who the customer is, and that will be Aaron Fitz Electrical. I can also choose an opportunity, so I will say that this is related to office build-out expansion, and I will save that record. So here you have it right there. That's the quote created. Now, if I want to add some products, it can be as simple as I will say I will choose an existing product. I can type in the name. I can just use from the list. I will do green phone each. I just do that, and I potentially can come back in here and actually say activate the quote. So what happened right now? The quote is active, and the version is 0, and I cannot update this quote. Now, if I want to come back in here and produce a document that I can actually send out to the customer, I can click on quote. A new window popped up. So it depends how you do what you do it. You typically can have a button in here, but as you see right here, I pulled in this document. It threw in the quantity, a price, and other details, and I can come back and actually save this as a PDF. But I noticed that, you know what, I say that here's a quantity, and then I know that we sell this in cases and each. So what I want to do in here, I maybe will want to display a unit of measure. So I'll do that. And actually now, as you see, just by choosing to add the unit of measure, now I produce additional data element in here. And I can save this one potentially as a PDF. Save it as. I'll save that on my desktop as version 3. And potentially that's it. That's a document created. So I send that to the customer. Fast forward, customer comes back, says, yeah, looks okay. Can you actually put proper billing information, shipping information, and then a couple of the details, and then resend the quote? Well, what I can do in here, then I can come back and I can say, let me revise that particular quote. So now you see it got unlocked. Now I can edit. Now, when we talk about integration, I can actually do a couple of things. One is, since the Aaron Fitz Electric is actually a customer that is an account in ERP, we can maintain additional addresses from a ERP side. So what I can do in here is, instead of me manually entering the billing address, I can quickly say, look up addresses, fill in billing, choose from a list of existing addresses, and once again, that list can be shared with the GP, and that's what we're doing in this particular integration. I click on OK, and as you see, the billing address is populated. I can do the same for the shipping, or maybe I will manually populate the shipping address correctly. The cool thing about this is whenever this information is transferred to an order and then transferred to the GP on the back end for fulfillment, all that information follows through it. So then whatever shipping labels need to be printed, all this information is going to be accurate. And for this particular customer, while I was doing this, they gave me a call, and we talked about potentially giving them a preferred price. So what I can do in here, I can come back in here and change extended price list. So as you see, I just updated the price list, and my current price was $59. Now it became $28 a unit, because we were selling this as a wholesaler. The important part in here is that I do have a product that is set up as a product catalog on the GP side, and then whenever the price changes or quantity available or standard cost is updated on the GP side, that information can be floated straight here into the CRM system. So therefore, if the price per unit changes and I'm a salesperson, I don't have a privilege to override it, that can be fully controlled by GP. On the other hand, I can potentially come back in here and choose to override the price if my security privileges permits that kind of functionality to be had by me. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to pretty much activate this particular quote, because that looks good, and I'm actually going to create this quote into an order. So once again, I have a quote. That quote is associated opportunity. So for this particular quote, I'm going to create an order. So as you see right here, it says, do you want to mark this quote as 1? Yes, I'll mark it as 1. Do Do you also want to close an opportunity? Yes, I'll close an opportunity, and we'll say that opportunity value will be $30. And actually, I will say, okay, close it out. Once again, I don't have to go back to another record, close opportunity, and then do a bunch of extra steps. The system will know that this is sort of the process that we're working through. So I will, from order perspective, I will say that it has to be fulfilled on the 15th. There are a couple additional fields that are required, batches and the warehouses. Jason will talk a little bit more about those elements. I just know that these are the fields that are required, so I'll just fill them in. I'll save the record, and here you have it. I have issued the quote. Customer called me. I accepted the quote. I converted the quote without any data reentry. As you see, shipping information, billing information, all this stuff is already present. And now I can just let this order sit in here until it's ready to be processed by batch processes and then converted into invoices on the GP side. Now, meanwhile, one other thing I want to do is I do have another quote that is available in opportunities for me. So when you send out another document for e-signature, so let me talk about that briefly. So what I have in here is I have an opportunity, and from opportunity, I have obviously the ability to link one opportunity to multiple quotes. So as you see right here, here's my opportunity. Here are a couple of different quotes that I have in draft mode and so forth. But to save some time and just kind of showcase some of the functionality, I mean, here is my opportunity with a couple of products in here. I have a couple of quotes, and I want to track all the communications about all the quotes sent to the customer for acceptance at opportunity level, because potentially my customers will say, give me this sort of configuration and then that sort of configuration that might be different, and I know that at the end of the day I will not really be getting all of the configurations they ask me to quote, but most likely I will be getting one of those configurations. So therefore I have one opportunity with multiple quotes. But with that said, what I want to do in here is I want to go back to within opportunity. I say I need to get an e-signature, so I need to send out some of these documents to the customer, and I'm choosing that to do from opportunity. I will say, let's do a new e-signature. So just keeping things very, very simple. Typically, this kind of information will be automatically populated, but I will select who my contact is. I will select who my company is. I will choose what template I want to use for the e-signature, so that can be pre-populated document that just kind of more or less accepts a signature like non-disclosure agreement, or it can be a document that actually takes the data from the quotes, from opportunities and so forth, and actually generates the document. So from this demo perspective, I'm just going to do a very straightforward quote document. I will select which template I'm using. I will click on next. Once again, typically this information will be pre-populated, but this is a demo environment. I will just simply fill in this information. I will say this is Bob Smith. So once again, it's based on the selection. Maybe that should be Bob Fitz. Based on the selection, this information typically would be pre-populated and properly configured system. And then I just noticed I need to type my email in here. So I type in the email. I say next. System says you're done. Save it, close it, and we'll actually send out the document. So what's going on right now is, as you see, from opportunity, the system is integrating at application level with the e-signature provider. As you see, it will create a unique document ID and so forth, and we potentially get a feedback on the status. So obviously this one is in step one, so it's not completed, not fully accepted. The quote one, this one is completed, and this one is submitted. So if I go back and actually bring up my email, let me check if I got one. I receive an email from the e-signature provider, and actually it says, dear Bob, you know, you've been requested a signature, begin your signing. I can click on that link as the end user. It takes me to the web portal, says welcome, read the terms, accept the terms, click on start signing. I actually see the document produced by us. I do sign in here, click on OK, finish, and I'm done. So the company sent me the proposal, I reviewed the proposal, details look correct, I clicked on sign, I'm OK. At this point, you can also take a couple extra steps, so you can have a note field or some other things where you can actually have the system capture additional data and actually go back and forth without picking up the phone and then calling somebody or actually sending an email. So if I go back to my system, this right here, if I refresh it, it says in progress, but to save some time, if I actually open one of the documents that already had a signature completed, you will see that we'll actually have the details, and we'll have some notes on when the thing has happened and who actually accepted the signature, what time they accepted the signature, what IP address they used, and so forth. But the important and really cool thing is that if I go to the notes, I actually have the signed PDF document attached right there. So this is a perfect example of how you can take the data from ERP, like set up the customer ID, set up the customer billing address, set up even some contacts and some other things like that, import that into the CRM, then apply a layer of CRM-only functionality where we actually produce a quote document, produce management of opportunities, and some other things like that related to the sales process management. And then we can actually enhance all of that functionality by saying, look, we're going to add an application-level integration with a third-party provider who actually will capture the signature and then log all the details and drop the documents back in here. And as you see right here, that information is stored right within our system without users needing to go back and forth and then re-enter the data and capture the data and go log in some other system, whether it's an accounting or the third-party signature provider, to actually figure out what is an update, who's holding up, and so forth on a lot of this process. So here you have it, and obviously from the CRM perspective, everything can be flashed into the dashboard. So from tracking the quote creation, tracking how many quotes are sent out, how many assigned, and so forth, you have pretty dashboards that you can actually say, show me number of documents created per week, show me the status of the documents, show me who the owners of the documents, and so forth. So you have a lot of different elements of how you can actually manage your sales force, your customer service staff, your order fulfillment, and so forth from one single system, with the integration doing the heavy lifting for all of your data needs. So with that said, that completes the initial spotlight from the integration perspective. And what I will be doing now, I'll turn the floor over to Jason so he can dive into the recurring sales order module that was built on top of Dynamics CRM and utilizes GP integration as a primary engine. So with that said, Jason, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Rokas. That was excellent. That Esignature is really a cool tool. So while I'm sharing my screen, let me talk a little bit about recurring orders and agreements. So recurring orders, at least in the way we built it, starts with an agreement. It doesn't have to be a legal document, but it can be. But the business case is if you're a manufacturer or distributor, and let's say you've put together a milk run, your core customers are ordering the same thing or very similar items at the same shipping location on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. Or let's say you're a service provider and you provide services throughout the month and you bill them monthly or quarterly for those services, and those amounts are the same and the services you provide are the same or similar. The solution allows for changes to be made, but from a data control and maintenance standpoint, let's say it makes sense for you to set that up and let it run and throw some dates around it. And as we said on the previous slide or on the presentation, set it and forget it. That's really the benefit to this. So here we're in CRM. We are looking at a list of active agreements. That's where this starts. So I'm going to drill into an agreement for Aaron Fitz. Those of you GP users or those who have taken in some demos or content on YouTube are probably familiar with Aaron Fitz. So now we're at the agreement. So we've associated an account with it, in this case Aaron Fitz. The shipping address, in this case, that's set at the header level of the agreement. So the use case here will be that all the orders, which will be the result of this agreement, will be shipped to the same location. You have phone number and some other related information to the account. Now we get into the details of the agreement specific information. We can set a start date and an end date, and we'll talk about the functionality of those momentarily. We also get into some of the statistical information that we are gathering or calculating against these agreements. That'll help us with resource allocation and replenishment, and I'll also talk a little bit about that. But we can also fill in some detail. So this is just a quick narrative about the agreement. Maybe a salesperson fills this in. So we'll fill that in. We'll save this record. And here we see the price list that's associated with the agreement, and some of the statistical information that I talked about. So you can see this agreement has been processing. So we can see the last creation date. So we created an order on 4/11. That order was, in this case, the due date would be similar to a shipping date. So that shipped on 4/12. We can also see what's coming up. So the next creation date is today. Next due date for that particular order would be tomorrow. So that gives us some information about what's happened or what's going to happen related to the agreement. So now we get into the schedule. So this dictates when the customer will receive their orders ultimately. So let's say, and you can have multiple schedules per an agreement, so let's say that a customer wants product A and B on every day of the week, but let's say weekly they only want certain products or certain services provided. So that's where we set this up, and I'll drill into one of these schedules and show you some of the functionality we have created around here. So in this case, the recurrence interval, we have multiple options: daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annually, and we can set specific start dates for the schedule. So as long as they are inside the parameters of the agreement, they will operate per this start date. So you don't have to have, the schedule can have a different start and end date than the agreement does. So let's say you're providing services for someone's yard, and let's say you're cutting their grass every day all summer, but let's say you want to schedule to start doing leaf pickup for those of you in the Midwest, or let's say you don't want to start that schedule until October. So you can set up multiple schedules related to that agreement. Recurrence multiple, so this will drive, this kind of amends the recurrence interval. So if you wanted it every other week, you would set that to 2, and that would make sure that the orders were only created every other week. You can also set a specific day of the week that you would like the orders to be created, and some other statistical information, days in advance, and schedule items to create. So this will help you manage your data. So this is the number of days in advance of the due date that the order will be created, and then the number of instances that you want to be created. So this helps you maintain your data, manage your data, make sure you don't have too many records out there that are then hard to manage. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and activate this and show you the results of that. So let's go ahead and activate that, and that's going to create some schedule items. And these are the records, and these are more of a maintenance record, but they are also how you manage when your orders are created. So a good example of this, so as you can see, based on what I said here, it created 3 records to 14 days in advance. So let's say one of these landed on the 4th of July, and you obviously did not want to deliver on the 4th of July. You can just go in, remove this record at this level, and then you don't have to worry about it. There'll be no order created for July 4th, and you don't have to think about that or manage that scenario anymore. You can also deactivate the record. So once we do that, it will remove all these schedule items. So let's say the customer says, you know what, we're going on break for 2 weeks. Please don't send any. You can send any product until you hear back from us. You can deactivate that record, and then when they call you back, you can reactivate. So the schedule, that's the schedule. That's the meat of the, or one of the main pieces of the agreement and the functionality. You can see here, it creates these schedule items. These schedule items are related to a schedule. So you can see in this case, we have a creation date set for today. So an order is set to be created today. That will happen automatically in the background, and I've just, we'll go ahead and kick off that integration. And in the meantime, we'll talk about the products. So products related to the schedules, these are the different products that you would like associated with schedules. So you can, as I stated before, if you have different things that a customer would like on different days, you can set that all up in the agreement product area. So you can see here I have a product set up. It's associated with that daily schedule, and there's some pricing information related to that. That's all set up for you. So in this case, we have two products that are related to the daily schedule. So we have the schedule, and we have two products that we're going to send daily to this particular customer. And that's driven by, and the order creation is driven by these documents here. So I will go ahead and refresh that screen, and while that integration works, we can see, okay, so that integration is still going. So that order has not yet been integrated. So let's go ahead and take a look at the process as it goes down the line. So now we will go to the processing batch, actually to the Gene Center batches. So in this scenario, this is where you're going to get your fulfillment team involved. So let's say you have some orders and you want some approvals to be in place for these orders. So let's say the warehouse foreman needs to go in and actually approve. Take a look at the order, make sure that is what was provided by the customer, to the customer. They can go in, take a look at the order, say, yeah, we did ship that LaserJet printer. There were no changes made to that order. I'm going to go ahead and approve that. That's the only order in that batch. This batch is ready to go. I'm the warehouse foreman for the North Regional Warehouse. So that batch has now been approved. This is a step in the process you can choose to implement or not implement according to your business needs, but we do have that element in there. And as we watch that flow through to the processing batch. So the processing batch will gather up all orders for a particular day, and this is where the GP integration will happen. So in this case, we will take a look at a processing batch and see that we have one batch associated with the processing batch. That batch has been approved. Therefore, we can submit these orders if we like. I do want to go back, however, and take a look at the order creation against the agreement. So we have the order here, and it looks like, unfortunately, that order is still sitting there. So there apparently is something wrong. I apologize. That's a live demo for you. So there's something hung up on that particular integration. Back to the processing batch. So let me demonstrate the GP integration. So we have one order here in a batch that has been approved. So now we have the submit orders option. This is the trigger that will submit the order to GP so that we can let our accounting team take it from there and process, create the invoice, send the document, and this is how we're collaborating with our accounting team. We've put some checks and balances in place, and we will utilize that functionality now. So I've submitted that to GP. In the meantime, I'll show you how we can interact with our orders through the customer portal. So while that's integrating...
So Jason, before we jump into the customer portal, let me just clarify something that I I understood it correctly. So you saying that we have approved the batches and then fulfill the batches and did the picking and all the stuff from within the CRM, and then we're pushing the order into into GP, or are we just pushing an invoice into GP?
No, so we're pushing the invoice into GP. So this is the site foreman has reviewed the document. So he potentially has a pick list in his hand. And he goes in, reviews the orders. In this particular case, says, yes, all of this went. There are no issues. There were no last-minute changes made that aren't reflected. So I'm going to go ahead and approve the batch. It's ready to create an invoice. So that's what I've done.
So in this particular scenario, what we're talking about is we're saying that we will manage and maintain most of the things from within the CRM, and then the only thing we need to do from the GP side is account receivables and potentially inventory allocation, because we'll say, yes, these are items that were picked, these items that were sent, therefore create an invoice record and potentially remove the inventory from availability. Correct?
Correct. That's exactly right.
Perfect. Thank you.
So yeah, the right people are doing the right things at the right time. And you're not having to dig through a lot of data to and work through a lot of different pieces of information to get done what you need to get done. So here you can see that our order was created after the fact. Unfortunately, something got hung up in the back end. This was the order that was created from our agreement automatically. So we can jump in here and see that the products, so it created its own site batch in this case, because this shipped from the main site. The other one shipped from the north warehouse, if you recall. But here you can see the fact that the products that we set up on the agreement came over, created an order, and it was ready to go to process. Unfortunately, that happened a little later. But let's jump into the, while we're waiting for the GP integration to happen, let's go ahead and jump into the portal. So you're a customer, you have an agreement, and you know you get the same products delivered to you every day, but let's say you need to make a change. You want to add something to an existing order. So the order is created from the agreement, but you know you want to add something else to that order. You want to get that done really quick before it ships. So instead of having to call and have a CSR on the other end, add it to the order and leave it up to possible, or send an email and wait to see if it got added. You can just add it right here in the customer portal. So now I'm a customer, Mike Wright, and I'm associated with Aaron Fitz, so I have access via security to the different orders for the account, associated with the account. So I'm going to go ahead and add another product. I know that I need a few more female adapters. 3 is not going to be enough, so I'm going to add 10 to that order. We're going to add a unit of measure, and assuming it is a viable unit of measure, now I've got an extra 10 female adapters. So that is good news. I got that added. I'm going to be able to service my customer or my manufacturing needs because I was able to get those 10 female adapters added to the order. So here you can see the portal. Generally speaking, there's many elements to it. Right now all we have configured for the demo environment is the order functionality, but that is a nice value add to your customers to be able to interact with their orders, with their information, and it saves you a step. It saves the opportunity to not be able to fulfill the order goes down because the customer has direct access to that information. So I will
Jason,
now,
just to be clear, we have created an agreement, and in agreement we set up how many days in advance we want to create the schedules for the for the orders to be created, and then within that agreement we also said that we want to create 3 or 5 or whatever number of instances of orders we want to create in advance. So therefore, when the customer logs in into the portal, they will actually be able to see those pre-created orders, so they can either go and interact with those pre-created orders, or they can go in and even create some additional new orders that potentially can be fulfilled based on whatever timeline that the customer chooses to, in essence, request the delivery date by. Correct?
Exactly. No, that's correct. So
Exciting.
you can see all the orders that are out there, their status. So here you can see the quote we created earlier in the demonstration.
So I guess another quick thing would be like if I go back and I talk about a customer a salesperson servicing a customer, so they configure the details in agreement and they potentially provide that as then a quote or an agreement that the customer signs it, then we'll have the exact information that is in the agreement configured in the system, so therefore we know the products are correct, the prices are correct, the unit of measure, the schedules, and everything else is correct. And now, once we set it up, we can potentially forget it, but then if the customer calls back and says, hey, when is my next time this particular part will ship, or what kind of schedule it is, or when was last time an order was processed, whether they look into the portal themselves or they talk to customer service or fulfillment or even the salespeople, everybody will be able to give the same exact answer because they're looking at the same agreement record that was originating, in essence, that particular relationship with the customer. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's very powerful, functionality, and it is. I can't stress the amount of errors that this cuts down on, the amount of, and just the control of the information, and then the customer service experience is enhanced tremendously by this by exposing orders. Basic information to customers for them to interact with is ultimately the goal. So in this case, we will jump in to GP, and we'll take a look at a batch that has been integrated over from CRM. So in this case, you can see the batch ID. So the naming convention has come over via predefined conventions that we defined in the integration. And you can drill in, you can see there's a transaction there, and you can drill in and actually see the invoice that was created in GP. So then your accounting folks can just go in and approve the order and post it. So there's your Aaron Fitz invoice for 128 SD RAM in this case for a batch that was integrated. And the invoice quantity, in this case, there was no pricing associated with this, so we gave these away for free. But regardless, the pricing integration, in this case, that was the price associated with this particular product and this price level. So that, given that we're coming up on time, I'm going to end my part of the demonstration there and throw it back to Rokas to cap it off.
Well, thank you, Jason. And while we making the shift from the presenter perspective, what would happen if I actually would go in and change the billing terms, shipping terms, and some other details related to this general account in GP?
Sorry, I muted myself there. That information would flow through to CRM, and that would flow through to all the orders. It would flow through to the account, and then you would have to make those setting changes per agreement as well.
Thank you very much, Jason. All right, well, let me share my screen really quick. We'll wrap this up. So one of the things that Jason didn't talk in details is, can we actually see, in addition to the transactional data, can we some summary data? And as you see right here, here's a customer record that potentially shows the financial picture of your customer, where we actually have an account record in the CRM. And what we're doing in here on the number 5 in here was pulling a billing information about that particular customer from GP. So should there be a balance that is outstanding or unposted balance for open invoices that are not posted, or credit limits? I mean, we can potentially choose to display that kind of information within your customer record in the CRM. We can actually show sales history. We know what was the last time, first time an order was placed. Are there any balances that are outstanding from the account receivable perspective, what are your year-to-date, last year-to-date sales, profitability, and so forth. So in addition to all the transactional data that we just talked about, you can also have a summary data available within your Dynamics CRM platform. So to sum up some of the benefits, I mean, we're talking about internal and external data reentry elimination. We're talking about empowering different departments working together from exactly same data set, so therefore they can provide the same answer to the customers every time they talk. Obviously, setting and forgetting should enable you as an organization to not under-deliver under any kind of agreement. So if you said that the customer wants to get something either performed from a service perspective or delivered to them on a weekly basis, daily basis, you can potentially pre-create these orders and choose to cancel them if you need to, but at least that way you have the reminders that are generated and there is somebody's potentially looking at that stuff. Obviously, entering the data quicker, processing the data quicker, making the things more accurate, putting some controls in your processes allows you to reevaluate your billing cycles and maybe make those much shorter from the quote to cash perspective. Also, we talked about that we are more or less getting the point where we as a customers, we as individuals are expecting the things to be integrated and connected from a personal perspective. So therefore, it boosts employees' satisfaction by providing them with the tools that they can actually collaborate together, they can work together, they can alleviate some of the stress factors from non-integrated perspective, and actually work together with their customers and colleagues in a connected manner. And most importantly, one of the questions that all organizations in this current day and age should be asking, are we easy to work with or are we easy to work for? So by utilizing modern technology, modern tool set, and then providing people who work for you and people who work with you flexibility of interact with the system, and managers potentially have the custom processes that allows you to control how you run your business is really what helps you to be easy to work with company. And our research indicated that if you are easy to work with, then you're much more likely to actually receive more additional returning customer orders from a customer base. So with that said, I'll turn the floor over to Brad, and this will wrap up our current webinar.
Unmuted. Well, thank you for joining us today. This webinar was recorded and will be available by request. If you have any questions about any of the benefits you've seen today or would simply like to chat about your goals for GP and CRM integration, contact Michelle Geeby at Turnkey Technologies at 636-237-2261. Thank you.